Sometimes you need to transport your bike or bikes to the place you're going to start riding. Because while sometimes I can ride straight from my house, a lot of times I can't. And that means a bicycle rack, like this one. On this episode of Keepers, review items that I have used and absolutely love. We'll be talking about this rack, why it is likely the last rack you would ever need to buy. Coming right up. This rack is made by One-Up USA. And you know, I can't really remember how long ago it was I bought two sets of these racks. One for my car and one for Mrs. Granny Gear's car, because we often go our separate ways with our bikes. And I remember at the time, they cost quite a bit of money. I was thinking they were like $500 or so a set, which, you know, many years ago, well, it kind of hurt a little bit. And you think, wow, is that worth it? But you know, I can buy a rack a lot cheaper than that. But you know, sometimes you really do get what you pay for. And I'm going to tell you why I think these were absolutely worth every penny I paid for them. Now, I've owned other racks in the past, from inexpensive ones that, you know, maybe you didn't hold your bike so carefully, and so do you want to put your nice carbon bike on that where it's going to rub together? Yeah, no thanks. That's fine for taking the kids' bikes to the beach, I guess. But, you know, your bicycle's an investment. You want to put it on a rack that's really going to be worthy of the bike, you know what I'm saying? And then I had a very expensive big rack from one of the big manufacturers, and that did a good job, but it was a monster. It was just big and heavy. If I took it off the car, Mrs. Granny Gear, she couldn't even remove that by herself and carry it. It was too big, too awkward, too heavy for her. And it had a lot of plastic parts on it, that fancy one. And you know what? You set plastic out in the sun for a long time and good things do not happen. When I saw the One-Up USA rack, I thought, it's pretty light. Pretty much mostly aluminum, not one plastic bit on it anywhere. Interesting. In fact, I thought to myself, you know, if some machine shop guy had seen a bike rack somewhere and said, yeah, no, I think I can make me one of those better than that, I think he'd make this. And so this has lived on our cars, I have two sets of these, for years. Sometimes we'll go months without even taking them off, and they have just been great. I haven't had to replace a part on it. I've had a couple nuts and bolts work themselves a little bit loose, and I had to deal with that. Other than that, they have just basically been untouched. And every once in a while, I maybe drop a little, like a dry lube or something on the pivots. They just work. Just been truly great product. Let's take a look at some of the features. So you notice when you look at the construction of this rack, like I said, it is all metal. There isn't any part of this that's plastic, not even a piece of rubber. Oh, I'm mistake. This little handle part right here, that might be plastic. I'm not sure. Other than that, this thing is all metal and mostly aluminum. These big extrusions, that's aluminum. The arms are aluminum. That's aluminum. That's aluminum. To put a bike on these racks is incredibly simple. Pull up the little release, open the arm to where you need it to be to fit your bike. Put the bike in between the wheel trays or the little arms that hold your wheels. Push it together. Voila, done and done. And if you want to move your bike side to side, so handlebars and whatnot do not touch, that's simple. All you got to do is adjust the arm out to one side, tighten it back up again. Now your bike is shifted over with room for another bike. The ratcheting mechanism here, this is super simple. This is aluminum too. This might be a wear item. If these teeth start to get a little bit dull, it'll still work. But look at, see, if it does wear, you just unscrew it, order another piece from them, and you could replace it. Every part on this is replaceable. Now, another thing I like about this rack is it's scalable. Now, right now, you can see I have it set up for 2 bikes. However, with a little bit of wrench and bolt work, we can convert this into a single bike rack in really just a matter of minutes. And these pieces, since it's mostly aluminum, that is not very heavy. I'm not having any difficulty holding that with one hand at all. And now, we've got a single bike rack that you can use instead of a double. Definitely takes some of the bigness out of the rack, doesn't it? Now I can put up to 3 bikes on this, and you buy this part of the rack to begin with, and then that part I just take off, that's called an add-on. And you can buy add-ons, you can go up to 3 bikes on this particular rack, but they make other racks now that are more heavy duty, and I think you can go up to 4, and I don't know. We'll see. I think 4 is about it, but check the website and see if you're looking for something to carry a lot of bikes. They also have e-bike rated ones. I think they even saw on their website look like a motorcycle rated one or an e-motorcycle or something. They have them from mild to wild, but this has worked great for me for your average bike, even a fairly light e-bike in combination with a regular bike. This rack will handle it no problem at all. And if you want to get it even more out of the way, so you're not knocking into it with your shins and whatnot, all you've got to do is hold the release lever, and you can fold it up, and even if you want to, one more out of the way. That, as far as I know, is the slickest one bike rack system I can think of for something that is out of the way, looks good on a car. Now this is black, by the way, you notice that. However, they make that also in plain aluminum, or I guess you'd say silver color as well. One thing I've noticed with some of the anodizing on some of these parts that were black, they tend to fade over time in the sun, but I don't mind. Still works really, really well. And then if you're not using the extension, the add-on piece for a single rack, all you got to do is put these bolts down with a special wrench. It's kind of a security Allen bolt. Snug them down, and you're good to go. Or you can take the bolts out and store them with your additional add-on piece if you want to. I keep them here because that way I don't lose them. Now the rack secures within your receiver hitch with the same security wrench that you use to put your add-ons on. Has an expanding ball on the end of it. This is the smaller size of the hitch types, but they also make an adapter. That comes with the rack that you can use the, I believe was it 2-inch hitch size as well, like for a big truck, and it'll adapt over just fine. Once you have it in place wherever you'd like it to be, to keep it locked in these notches so it can't move at all, you can screw down this little thumb wheel down to where that's snug, and your rack is absolutely not going to come out of this place. Now you can see these different notches here. The bar can sit in any one of these notches, and then if you want to tilt it down, you go past the last notch and it drops down even further. I'll show you what I mean. So here you can see the rack is kind of at an angle, and now I'm in the first angled notch instead of straight up like in the stowing position. Now if you can see underneath there, we're in the use position. This is where you actually use it, and it's in that last notch, and if I go out of that notch even further, it'll tilt down. And this is what you do if you had a bike on there and you wanted to get into your hatch. You could tilt it down and their bike would be coming up here out of the way. Easy peasy. Well, almost. It's one of the complaints I have about this rack, and we'll talk about that in a minute. It's a little bit hard to see what I've been doing to release this, but this big aluminum bar across here, you have to push that in so it disengages with the notches, or else the rack won't move. That's really good because you don't want your rack move. This is very secure. This thing doesn't wiggle or waggle or rock around at all. But it takes quite a bit of hand strength to pull that bar in. Now, I think it's about time, all this rain we've had lately, I think it's about time for me to put a little bit of, I use my wax chain lube actually on that because it doesn't attract dirt, to help that move a little bit. But if you have weak hands or you're strength challenged or arthritis or something like that, pulling that bar in can be a challenge. Now, this is an older rack. It'd be interesting to see if One-Up USA has addressed that and made that a little bit easier. It's quite possible. I'm just telling you what I know with my rack. Not a deal breaker, something to consider though. Now the other thing is it's really easy to tilt this down like I showed you, to take your bike out. So if you need to get in your car or your hatch or whatever, it's not that hard to do. It's a little bit fiddly to reach around your bike and pull that bar while there's a bike in there. If you got two bikes on there, it's really difficult to press that bar in and drop this rack. And when you do, you better be ready to catch that rack and bikes because they're coming out right where you're standing. And if you got three bikes on here, I wouldn't tilt it. I honestly wouldn't, because it's so unwieldy, unless maybe it's a two-person deal where you're holding the supporting the bikes on the rack, someone else is moving the bar, you're unweighting it and letting it drop. In that situation, I would do it. There's no way I would do that by myself. I don't even like doing it by myself with two bikes. It's just kind of a low back breaker, if you know what I mean. But other than that, I can't think of anything I don't like about these racks. They live on our cars. They almost never get taken off. I almost never had to do anything to it. Like I said, a couple tightening of bolts here and there. I've never had to replace a part on it. There's some parts that's starting to look a little worn, but it still functions perfectly. And when the day it stops working well, I will just buy that part from One-Up USA, replace it, and go for another 5 years. It truly has been one of those times where in the moment, the money I spent seemed like a lot. Looking back on years of service, really not so much. It's been an excellent product. It's a keeper. Gonna keep using it until, well, probably my car is gonna wear out before this rack does. And you know what I'm gonna do then? I'll just move the rack to another car. Anyway, Granny Gear out. You guys get on this weekend, go ride your bikes, enjoy your life. Guys, take care.